Good morning, and welcome to Tuesday Transformation Tidbits, where every week we come together to stir your faith, sharpen your focus, and to shift you into the next level. And 2026, this is the year that we have been getting it done. Come on, someone say after me, this is the year that we're getting it done. And the last quarter, we talked about level up. We talked about moving from where you are to moving into what you're supposed to be becoming. This quarter, we're be talking about locking in. And this series that we're in this quarter is called Embody. It's turning the point, turning into what it is that we're supposed to be becoming. It's the moment where transformation stops being something that you're working on and it becomes something that you're actually living out. It's a shift from the internal efforts, the external efforts, into the internal efforts that we have. Week one, when we were dealing with this, we talked about embody the standard. And when we talked about embodying the standard, we talked about alignment yield action and action yield identity. Week two, we came back and we talked about embodying the right mindset. In order for us to embody a standard, to go along with that standard, we have to have the right mindset. So week two, we talked about renewing yield reframe, and reframe yield reinforce. So this week we're coming back on week three, and we're going to be talking about embody habits. You set the standards, you got the mindset to go along with the standards. Now your habits has to be going along with your standards and your mindset. So this week we're going to be talking about the clue, and then we're going to talk about your clue yields your choice, and your choice is going to yield your character. And as always, we always have a scripture that's going to align with whatever tidbits that we're giving out. And this week, when we're talking about embodying the habits, we're talking about transformation becomes tangible. When you transform, you need something tangible that you're able to reach out and that you're able to grab. We're talking about living it without forcing it. Now that we're becoming what it is that the Father told us that we need to become in 2026 in order to get it done, we got to live it out. But when we're living it out, we want to do it without forcing it. We want it to be natural in what we do. So our scripture today that's going to align with embodying the habits is Galatians 6:9. It says, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So when we look at it, it talks about don't become weary in doing good. I want to make sure that we get this scripture correctly as we pattern today's tidbits by you got to be in doing good. You can't become weary in doing good, for it's at a proper time that we will reap a harvest if we don't faint, if we don't give up. When we look at the scripture kind of captures the essence of what we're going to actually be talking about. It captures the heart of habit building. And this morning I'm giving out the tidbit of habit building. Steady, faithful repetition in habits is important because repetition is going to produce the transformation. So when we look at the scripture, it basically deals with the point that harvest comes from the habits. You got to have a habit in order to get a harvest. And I want that to rest in someone's spirit this morning. If there's no harvest, you don't have a habit. The harvest comes from a habit. That's why the scripture told us in doing good. You got to be doing something not to become weary, because we know that a proper time we're going to reap. So what is we reaping? A harvest. And a harvest is going to come from the habit. The habit comes from in doing good. We've got to be doing something in order to create a habit. So this morning, come on, let's get ready just to drop some tidbits. Transformation becomes tangible is a shift. And what is a shift from? It is a shift from effort into automatic. We don't want to sit here and just live. We want it to be part of our DNA, part of what we do, part of our habits. Habits are a bridge. And what is it a bridge from? It's a bridge from being who you are to becoming who you're supposed to be. Who you were to who you're becoming. That bridge in between that is called a habit. And we all have habits. When you embody the habit, you match your identity. When you embody the habits, what you do, you're matching, you're becoming consistent. And consistency must become natural instead of forcing it. When we talk about embody is when your inner world and your outer world is connecting, it's matching. So when you're embodying something, I want us to understand it's the inner world inside of us, along with the external world or the outer world, and it comes together in one connection or one moment or one matching of it. It has to be a match that is going on. So when we look at habits, habits are the quiet architect of our identity. What are we talking about? They shape your day. Habits direct your energy, and habits ultimately define your results. So I'm going to say today, habits are the quiet architect of your identity. It shapes your day. They direct your energy, and they ultimately define your results. So in week 3, it's about building the rhythm that supported the standard that you set in week 1, in the mindset that you strengthened in week 2. So all of them come together. And this week we're going to stop trying to change, and we're going to start living in the change that we have. We're no longer trying to do anything, but we're actually living in what it is that we're doing up. We're locking into the thing that God has called us to do. So this week we have 3 words that we're focusing on. Clue is going to yield choice, and choice is going to yield your character. I'm going to say it again for somebody who's trying to drop it in the chat. Clue is going to yield your choice, and your choice is going to yield your character. So what do I mean by a clue? Clue is to set the target. Every habit you have, it begins with a clue. A clue is a moment. A clue is an environment. A clue is feeling the signal that something is about to happen. I don't know about you, but when I know something is about to happen that's unusual for me, I normally get something in my throat, or I normally get something in my stomach. My stomach starts to become queasy. I have this nervousness that's in my throat, that's kind of in my chest. That's a signal for me that something is about to happen out of the norm. Something is about to come about. So it's a clue that's set to trigger. This week, identity is the clue that's going to help us to act to our future self. We need a clue. We need a clue that's going to set the trigger to put us in place so that we can act like the future self that we're supposed to be, the thing that we were supposed to become. So let me give you an example of some clues. A morning routine. Scripture says, morning by morning, new mercies that I see. So when scripture is indicating that, it's giving us a clue. It's morning, which is the clue. So the clue yields something. And the Lord said, new mercies that you see. Let me give you another clue. A workspace is a clue. We know when we go into our job, our workspace is the place that we actually do work. It's the place that we do something. Some of us have offices in our home. Some of us have desks in our home. Some of us has designated a place in our house that we consider to be our offices, where we have our laptops. It's where we have our monitors. It's where we do our work that we do. So the workplace is a clue that this is the place that's designed for work to happen. Another thing that I'm going to give you, a mindset. We have a mindset clue, and the mindset is that tells me now I feel overwhelmed. So because I feel overwhelmed, I have to make a choice of what it is I'm going to do. So my mindset is the clue to tell me that there is a feeling in me that's overwhelmed. Now, because it's a clue that's given me that I'm overwhelmed, what choices am I going to make from that clue? We got to make sure that clue is the trigger that tells us that something is happening. Clues create structure, and the structure really creates stability. So every one of us, in whatever it is that we do, we are giving a clue. And a clue is going to yield a choice of what it is that we're going to do. So choices is my number 2 point, and it makes the identity. It gives alignment of motion. When we make choices, we're doing something of motion. We're aligning our motion in place. So when we look at habits, habits are built one choice at a time. So the goal of the habits really is not perfection, but the goal of the habits is repetition. We want to constantly repeat. Habits come into place when repetition it appears. The more that you do something, the more that you repeat something, it becomes a habit. And habits are built on one choice at a time. So what are you talking about, sis? Let me tell you what I'm talking about. You got to choose the aligned action. Whatever aligned action that you choose, even if it's small, you've got to choose it. Then you got to choose consistent action. And what do I mean when I say consistent action? I'm back at that word that talks about repetition, doing it over and over consistently. Even if whatever you're doing is simple, be consistent with your action and then identify that action that you're doing. Even if that action is something that's inconvenient, identify it. Say, this is the choice. This is the action that I'm taking because a clue has been given me. Remember when we talked about the scripture in Galatians 6:9, don't become weary in doing good. Harvest comes from the point of you doing. You're going to reap a harvest from the habit. The habit is in doing good. It talks about at the proper time, you shall reap the harvest. The harvest comes from the habit of in doing good. So we got to understand clue is going to yield a choice that we need to make to align, because every choice that we make, every choice that we decide to we do, it reinforces the ideal that we are embodying. So understand that the choices that we make, they're going to reinforce our identity. The next point after we talked about clue, yield, choices. Now choices is going to yield your character. So when we look at the choices that are yielding our character, we've got to understand that character becomes what you repeat. Characters is what you repeat as an individual. Your habits, they shape your character because they shape your daily reality. So we got to remember our habits, they shape our character because they shape our daily reality. What are you talking about? When your habits match your identity becomes unshakable. And why we are locking in and becoming what the Father has called us to be, we have to come to the point that we are unshakable. Somebody write, I'm unshakable in 2026. Come what will in my life, I'm going to be unshakable because I'm locking in. So you got, when we become unshakable, we trust ourselves more. When we become unshakable, we follow through with what it is that we say that we're going to do. When we become unshakable, we show up with integrity. I've got integrity. I've got follow through. I trust myself because of the point I've got character, and my character is based or becomes on something that I constantly repeat. It's a habit that is identifying with me. So when we look at character, character is not formed, in a big moment, in this big thing. But character is formed when we're constantly repeating it over and over and over again. When we're repeating something over and over and over again, it becomes, as I said, part of our character. So when we look at our character, we want to see what are the things that we're repeating over and over. Most of the time when we look at this, and I just want to stop for one moment, and I want to deal with the difference between the character and the identity. Because there is a difference between character and identity. Identity is internal. Identity is the root. It's the person that you're becoming. It's the internal shift that shapes your behavior. It's the mindset. It's the belief. It's the self-image that you operate from. It is I am behind every action. When we look at the identity, it's the I am that's behind every action that we do. Identity, what it does, it answers the question is, who am I becoming? That's what identity says. It says, who am I becoming? And the first couple of weeks, week 1 through 3, was the identity weeks, was the foundation, because week 1 we embody the standards. Identity set the standard, and week 2 we embody the mindset. Identity shape our thinking, and in week 3 is the week that we're in now. We embody the habits. Identity drives repetition. So identity is the foundation of the first couple of weeks that we went. We're going to shift to get into the character in the last couple of weeks. But in the first 3 weeks, we talked about identity. Identity is why behind the transformation that we do. When we look at the identity, we look at the point that it really is the root. But the character comes along with the identity. And there is a unique difference. Character becomes the focus for us when we're going through weeks 4 through 6. And I'm not going to get into that now, but one of the next couple of weeks, we're going to be dealing with the character now that we have dealt with the identity of it. See, character is proof of the transformation. And I need us to understand character is proof. Identity is why, but character is proof that the transformation has taken. See, identity sets the direction, but character keeps us on the pathway of the direction. Identity is the internal alignment, but character is the external consistency that we do. And with us, there's an internal and there is an external. Identity is who you decide to be, but character is who you demonstrate yourself to be. We want to make sure we understand that, because there's a difference in our identity and there's a difference in our character. Identity is the internal shift, but character is the external expression. So there's an internal shift that goes along with us in this level, in this locking in this getting it done in 2026. But the character is the external expression that's going to come from the internal shift that happens in us. And when the two of them matches together, transformation becomes permanent in us. And in this year of 2026, we're looking for transformation to be permanent in us. We want transformation to become part of who we are. So when we go into the next couple of weeks, we're going to be moving into the character portion of this series. And I want us to make sure that we understand that the character portion that we're moving in, we dealt with the internal, we dealt with the identity, we dealt with the internal. Now I need to shift you to deal with the external expression that's going to come from the internal change that has happened with us. So in the next 4 weeks or the next 3 weeks, we're going to move into the character portion. And we're going to start out in the character portion and week 4. 4. Week 4 is the next week that we're coming into. And in week 4, we're going to embody the discipline. We got to discipline ourselves while we're locking in. We got to make sure that we discipline. In the discipline, we're going to decide is going to yield do, and do is going to yield develop. So discipline is the identity in motion because it is the external expression of our character. So when we go into it, remember that we've already dealt with the identity point. We dealt with the identity point in weeks 1 through 3. We dealt with what identity mean in weeks 1 through 3. We dealt with how God is dealt with our identity. We dealt with the identity of setting standards, the identity of shaping thinking, the identity of driving repetition, the identity of why behind the transformation. This week 3, when we dealt with our habits, we were dealing with our identity because our habits was going to give us the harvest that we needed to keep going forward to getting it done in 2026. So we're going to shift next week into the character of who we're going to come, the character of the proof of the transformation. And we want to make sure that they're locking, identity and character are locking together. They're matching so that the transformation that's going on in our life will become permanent. Everything we do, we want it to become permanent. So identity is who you decide to be. But character is who you prove yourself to be through consistency. So in week 3, we talked about the clue that set the target to make you want to have a choice, and the choice that created your character, the external expression. And this week, we want to stop trying to change. And we want to start living the change that God has given us for 2026. People, family, friends, loved one, those who are listening, those who are going to come back and listen to the replay, we are getting it done in 2026. We are in the series of locking it in, embodying the things that the Father is calling us to do. We're at the point that we're doing the turning point. We're at the point that this is the moment where transformation stops being something that we're working on, and it's becoming something that we're living it out. We're shifting from external efforts into the internal identity in these first 3 weeks. I want us to know that we are getting it done for 2026. I don't know about you, but every morning when you wake up, you should decide that this is the year that I'm getting it done. So I've got to have some clues that's going to influence my choices, that's going to build my character. If you remember nothing else from my tidbits this morning, remember that I've got to stop trying to change and I've got to start living the change. And this is my Tuesday transformation tidbits for you today. Be amazing, family, loved ones, listeners, whoever you are on today. Be amazing on today. Shalom.